Hello and welcome back to PA Chalk Up. I'm your host Manny, and today we have Christian. How are we doing?
Hi, Manny. I'm perfect. Really, thank you so much to invite me and to be here in the 84th
Eighty-four,
session.
85th. Yeah, yeah,
84, 85, yeah. So
yeah.
really thank you.
No, it's all
Really
good.
appreciate
We kind of met and had a lovely dinner when I was in Bilbao with Coach Irene, um, who introduced us. And when we started talking and sort of getting into S&C and what you do, I knew I had to get you on. So, for everyone at home, if you let us know who you are, what you do, and how you got to where you are, have you ever wondered how I'm able to run my business, my podcast, and still be able to coach? Well, I use TeamBuilder. TeamBuilder is an all in one coaching software that reduces the amount of time that we spend on the back end of programming, on our Google Sheets, on our Excels, and allows me more freedom to do testing. With this podcast and episodes, I'm actually able to run some programs that I learned through different coaches coming on. To find out how you can use TeamBuilder and how it can apply to your own program, visit the link in the description and catch yourself a 30-day free trial. Just simply use code PACHOCUP, that's PACHALQUP, and start the next stage of your coaching career.
it. Well, my name is Cristian Lambrecht. I am a passionate of sports since I have uh, 3 years old. I was born in a city in Argentina called Bahia Blanca, where we breathe basketball. Because in my city there are around 23 teams from my city, born more a lot of stars of basketball players as Manu Ginobili, Pepe Sanchez, Puma Montecchia, Juan Spiel, Pancho Hassen, and many coaches who were in different parts of the world. So we breathe basketball. So luckily, I could start to study at first around 2003, a long time ago in my city, and I study physical activities, physical education for 5 years. Then I moved to Buenos Aires city to do a postgrad, and then to Rosario, another city. And at the same time, I was very luckily to start to work in the best level in Argentina in the national league of my country for 8 years. I worked there in Bahia Blanca Basket. It was a really good team, an organization where I could improve different tools and different skills to become a better strength coach. I was in two World Cups under 19 with the national Argentinian basketball team in Greece and Egypt. Um, I could train as well. I could be as the personal trainer of Manu Ginobili before the London Olympic Games and Pepe Sanchez. It was a very and really good experience to be with that kind of players and with athletes. After that, around 2018, I moved to Venezuela to have my first experience outside my country. It was a great experience where I learned a lot. I could be in the China World Cup of 2019, in the Pan American Games in Peru. In 2022, I land Spain, work in female basketball team called Promete around in Logroño City. And after one season there, I land, arrive in Bilbao. Bilbao City is in the north of Spain, a very nice city where I work in Bilbao Basket. Bilbao Basket is one of the teams in the most important European league in ACB league. I'm really happy to be here. I can work in a really quiet way. I can learn a lot. I can work with very nice people. I'm really comfortable. comfortable to work here. And what I am a very fan of sports. I love to learn from everyone and everywhere. That's one of my most important goals, to learn and to improve every day. That's the one of the most interesting point that I like. I have a girlfriend here, an Argentinian girlfriend, who, well, I enjoy a lot to share time with her. All my family is very far away. They are in Argentina, but, well, I enjoy too much my job, so I don't miss them. I'm really happy to be doing what I love, that is working in sports and basketball.
Perfect. You also didn't mention that you also coached the Argentinian um, national team. And my first question is, with all the sort of experience that you've had going from Pan America to the Olympics to national, what's been your favorite moment of your career so far?
Well, I lived an incredible moment around 2 weeks ago. One of the most important moments in my career, in 15 years of professional strength coaching and career, that was in the European competition with Bilbao Basket. We, in semifinals, we played in France. We lost for 19 points versus Dijon. And 1 week, exactly 1 week after, we play in Bilbao, and we must win for 20 points or more. And, well, in these special things of this sport, incredible things of this sport and magic, we were winning for just only 3 points in the last 5 minutes, and we won the game for 29 points. So we beat them. We advanced to the final, and in today we play a final of an European league. So that was one of the most important moments of my career. And another important point was in the China World Cup, when, well, I worked for Venezuela, but we played versus Argentina in the second phase group. So that was very, very, very special to be on court, to hear Argentinian people shouting and singing, to see some friends who were in the bench, some players who know them a lot. So that was a very special moment in my career too.
With the sort of different cultures that you've experienced, what are some of the differences that you found that you've sort of had to adapt to, and how have they sort of intaken this strength and conditioning in a sport that doesn't always talk about strength and conditioning?
I think that the word adaptation
Mm,
and strength and conditioning coach must be very close, because we must adapt every day without leaving our principles and our thinkings and beliefs. But adaptation is the key, I think. I am not the first, and I will not be the last one who talk about that. So when you had experience to live in different countries, or visiting and living in different countries, you know that there are different views on different ways to think, different ways to do the things, different beliefs, and living and working in another leagues outside my country open my head, open my eyes a lot. One of the important point is to respect, for example, the religion in Central America,
mm,
that in Argentina is not so popular to heard about that. So to pray before each practice, to pray before each game, or, for example, there are some special days that you have to respect and we can practice. So that was very important to me to understand that,
mm.
although I don't have any special orientation or religion, I respect other point of view. and at the same time, the food and the different habits that other players have depending on the country that they are from.
Different cultures. You're sort of talking about like the fact that they'll have different religions, different eating habits, different um sort of ways of being. How do you maneuver your sessions around some of those difficulties that, although you have to respect and have accommodating and adapting to their needs, but also making sure that they're hitting specific stimulus to perform?
I think money that, well, for some seconds ago, yes, I told you that I adapt. I open mind to understand the different beliefs, different cultures, blah 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 blah. But at the same time, all of us, strength coaches, players, coaches, uh, whoever that is part of a team or is part of a group must respect to the laws and the rules and the
Mm,
culture of the country where you are. I mean that we practice at 11 a.m. because the coach like that, and in Spain, for example, everyone have lunch late around 3 p.m. So I have lunch always at 12:30 or 1. In Argentina, we have at that time. Well, in Spain, they all eat lunch or they have lunch at 3 p.m. So we respect that time and we respect the 11, that is the time where the coach and the team want to practice. So people from Belgium and African people, people from Serbia, from Slovenia, from Norway, and many other countries must adapt to that time. So, for example, American players that they in USA are 6 or 7 hours before
mm,
Spain. So we can't practice in the afternoon. We decide to practice in the morning. So you have to talk with your parents after practice or before midnight, because you have to sleep enough hours to be fresh and to have the best performance as you can the next day, practicing or playing. So I am
mm.
different than you, but I have to respect you at the same time. Or, for example, the last month, I have two players where are Muslim, so they did the Ramadan.
Ramadan. Yep.
So, well, I at first I have to study about that. So, what does it mean from which date start and when does it finish? You can eat or you can drink or you can do both of them. So, well, at first study, and after that try to help them, or yeah, to help them to know when we play, when we practice, which day will be hard, which day will be soft or low load. So that's the adaptation that I am talking about.
So with your schedule, you obviously coach Bilbao and Argentina. How is your sort of schedule split between those two teams?
I can share, yes, because you're asking me about the national team and Bilbao Basket, really?
Yeah, like your schedule. How do you? What's it? What's the split like?
Money in a world season, or in a world year, we have around 2 or 3 windows FIBA a year of 1 week, 6 or 7, 8 days,
Mm,
and a long phase of practice. Yes, in the summer, around July and August, we will be around 3, 4, 5 weeks together for a competition or practicing. In those moments that I am with the national team, Bilbao Basket hasn't got competition, official
mm,
competition. That's on one hand. On the other hand, most of our players in Bilbao Basket, around 9 players of the 12 or 13 players of Bilbao Basket, are in the different national teams of their countries.
mm,
So the player who stay in Bilbao in practice, they will stay with my assistant coach. So The Bilbao Basket let me go with the national
Hmm.
team for that windows or for the preparation in the summer. So I can complement both
Mm.
jobs, and there are no problems.
So that makes sense. So when it's international season, the club sports kind of have a time off because most of their players will be playing for national teams. So it kind of frees up that time for you to go across and coach and develop the squad for their upcoming competitions.
Yes, exactly.
Perfect. With the sort of two teams that you have, what's some programming differences that you have between both? Obviously, you're with Bilbao most of the time, and international competitions during the summer or at three different points. What's the most principles and programming differences between both teams?
Manny, the most important difference between both teams are the calendar and the time available. Because I have the players of the national team, I am with them face to face around 40 or 50 days a season or a year.
Mhm.
So, on the other hand, with the other players of Bilbao Basket, with my team, I am with them around 40, 44 weeks. So, with those players, I can develop, I can go deeper in the different physical qualities, but with the national team, except in the summer that I have 3, 4 weeks, I can do it. I just only prepare them and manage the different situations and the different needs, and I have to be very close to them, have really good communication with them and with the strength coaches of their team to develop all those qualities and all those needs in their teams, not with me. I just only have to prepare them for the games and for the practice. I repeat, except when I have around 4 or 5 weeks of just only training, practice before important tournaments in the summer. Just only that.
With your programming, what are some of the different qualities that you look to develop based on the time you have with them?
Which is the quality you are
Yeah,
asking?
so what qualities do you most try and develop with Argentina, and then what qualities and sort of foundations do you try and build from start to finish with Bilbao?
I think it's a difficult question, the answer, because general needs is impossible to think actually.
Mm,
It depends. It depends individual needs.
yep.
So I can answer you money. No, strength. Strength is the weakness of most of the players. There are some players that they are strong. It depends. It doesn't mean if I am in Bilbao Basket or in the national Argentina national team. So uh, global answer is impossible. Perhaps it's true that with the national team in situations of FIBA window of 6, 7 days, and in those 6, 7 days we play 2 games, and perhaps we have to move from one country to another one. So perhaps we
Hmm.
have 4 practice in 7, 8 days and 2 games. So I can focus in mobility, on stability, more than strength or maximal strength or power, blah, 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 blah. Just to
Yeah,
do small stimulus, and that's enough.
like the minimum effective dosage. That's kind of like,
Yes. I, I'm sorry, Manny. And
yeah.
I have to think that I don't know exactly what they have been doing
Hmm.
in their teams and with their strength and conditioning coach. I do a research. I collect information some weeks before I meet them in the FIBA window concentration. But doing this doesn't mean that I know perfectly and deeper what they have been doing. So I don't know if they do squats with 10 kilos or 100. So I can expose them to a
Hmm.
squat of 100 kilos 2 days before a game if they haven't been doing squat for the last 2 or 3 months. This is
Yeah.
a basic example.
No, no, I agree, and I think with the international stuff, because you don't see them all the time, it's kind of hard to understand like exactly their training age and how they're going to respond to certain stimulus when you've not been with them.
Yeah.
Um, with looking at Argentina and then going to Bilbao, when you do have time to properly develop and track them through their whole season, so you've got like your preseason, your in season, your off season. How does that change to individualize their programs?
Yes, it's different because I am with them around 30, 35, 36 weeks in a season. So we can build together a program. We can improve different qualities. We can uh, work in one goal for a long time. We know that we play 2 games a week, that we travel, blah 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 blah. But in Bilbao, I know that I have 2 weight rooms. I know that the methodology and the day by day, I know it. I know the time. I know the load of every player. I know how he thinks. So that's much different. So for that reason, it's very important for me before each FIBA window to ask the strength and conditioning coach of each player about
Mm,
if they are injured or no, if they have an individual special program, to know the load of practice and games for the last 3 4 weeks. Because if not, I meet them in that moment, some minutes before the practice, and say, well, hello, how are you? How do you feel? Well, let's practice. Let's lift or let's run. And what you have been doing for the last weeks. And how are you? How do you feel? That's I think that is a step forward that the strength coaches we have been doing, and we have been doing correctly in the last 5 years. That we are hearing and we are paying more attention about the athlete,
mm,
and not
mhm.
just only we give orders and say you have to do this, this, and this. It's bidirectional, no
Yep.
unidirectional like a long time ago.
Like democratic, yeah. So yeah, so this is what I like to talk about as well. So with my program, I like to look at a lot of like flexible non-linear periodization where it's kind of undulating, but the undulation actually comes from um, how the players are coming into their session. So if I've got an athlete who is perfect, he's slept well, drank, ate, everything's good. We do very heavy CNS work where it's stressing them out a lot. If they come in so and so, we focus a little bit more on getting some fast movements in there to just make sure that they can just expose them a little bit to the speed curves. If they come in really fatigued, like they've not ate, they've not slept well, we kind of have like this hypertrophy, like accessory rehabilitation session where it's a lot of control, it's a lot of just feeling movement, just getting back to the basics and really teaching them fundamental movement. Now, it does take a little bit longer to set up because you're having to set up 3 different sessions for every athlete. But what I will say, you can keep the exact same exercises. All that changes is the intent at which we move. So, like if I've got a heavy CNS, I just need to up the weight. It can still be a squat. If I need to move speed, that can be a speed squat or a banded squat, something that really forces them to get up and down. If they're really fatigued and really exhausted, let's do some light box squats. Get the goblets, cowbells, do something nice and light so that they can feel the movement and still get some exposure to stimulus.
100%. I agree with you. Manny, I think that that one, that point that you explain us really good, is the most important skill that a strength coach must create and improve. That's the
Mhm.
difference, I think, between a good and a very good strength and conditioning coach, or a very good and an excellent strength and conditioning coach. Have you ever asked an athlete or a player which or who was the best strength and conditioning coach that he had and why? Have you ever?
No, I always assume I'm the best.
Well, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. But who say that? The athlete or yourself?
I say this.
Ah, well.
No, but it's a good point. It is a good point. And then, so I always like to ask why as well. I ask why a lot. So, and it gives them that little space to dive into a little bit more of what they're saying. I had Coach Mo on a while back, and she goes through. So she does a lot of cognitive training and likes to get into the deeper meaning of why athletes say and do what they do. And she has this thing where if she asks, or if she asks a question and an athlete replies, she'll be like, "Yes, but why?" And she'll ask that a couple times so that they can get really deep into what they're saying. And I think we spoke about this when we were at dinner, and it's people aren't just one dimensional where you go into the gym and you stress them and then they go home. Like you have to consider the psychological, the social, the this whole dynamic of them being a human being, because once you know a how they're feeling, what triggers them, and how we can make them hit their best performance for that day, for that week, for that month, for that year, then you get into this area where you can really develop them as an athlete. And you kind of mentioned that you individualize programs. When we say that, it's like everyone has the same session, right? But what changes is certain nuances in the program to make it targeting them specifically.
At first, human beings. After that, athletes. And
Yep.
all the human beings have different beliefs, different fears, different expectations. So that's important. I am not talking that we must be psychologists, Sigmund
Yeah.
Freud,
Hmm.
um,
Biomechanics,
students. No.
physiologists. Yeah.
No. Just try to understand more than our passion. You understand what I mean? That
Hmm.
we always focus in numbers. We are focusing barbells, dumbbells. But man, think about human beings first and then the other, because that's the most important. Because I come back to that question. I don't mind who was the best strength and conditioning coach that my athlete had. I try to learn from them why those
Hmm.
strength coaches were the best for them.
Yeah. Why they
And
made that impact.
the answer that they gave me, the common answers are, they make me feel different than the others. I didn't do the same as my teammate, and we didn't do all of us the same. That's one of the most common answer. And another important point that they answer is that the adaptation. That if today, what you explain today, squat. Okay, if I am tired, I do a box squat and with X tempo. If I am fresh and I'm really happy because I had a great night with my girlfriend and I slept incredible, and 2 days ago uh, I had a great game. Let's do a dynamic effort with the bands, 100 kilos, or blah 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 blah. So they say to us, or they say to me, that they think that the best strength coach were them. So they didn't answer me that no, they have 3 masters and they know a lot and they talk to me in a very difficult way and they are very power and they are fit. No, man, we have to find that balance between knowledge, between example, between rigorous and be hard, and at the same time be flexible. Hey, man, it's easy to say and very
100%.
hard to do.
Yeah. So I I obviously speak to a lot of coaches and a lot of new coaches, and I've been around this industry since I was 13. I'm now 20. Hold on, 29 in a couple of days, and we when we come out from our degrees, our education, all we know is textbooks,
Sorry,
right?
Aldo?
Textbooks, like the books.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
the research papers,
Yeah.
the very science heavy things. And I was fortunate enough that when I started my education, I did my gym qualifications. Then I took 2 years out on purpose to work in the industry, to work in a general population gym, where I really learned adaptability and individualizing every single program. I then done my university, but throughout my university, I always had work placements that I did, just getting a little bit more experience. And you quickly learn that textbooks are just averages of the human population. So like when we then get face to face with real elite athletes, real population and anything in between, you learn that everyone is different. So you can't treat them like what you read in textbooks or research papers, because we're not lab rats, right? In research and in textbooks, it's every variable is controlled. Or you need to eat this before you come in, or you need to sleep this before you come in, or you need to do XYZ before you can come in, so that we can get stability within the results. Humans aren't going to do that. If How many times have you came in and you've had that plan that you're doing a 85 to 90% 1 RM session, and your athlete gets in and is like, I'm not doing that. So, like, what do you do then? As a coach, what do? You have to adapt. And I always talk about this checklist when my athletes come in, and it's, first of all, give them a fist bump. If they give you a good fist bump, I'm like, okay, he's ready for the session. He's That's one box ticked.
Yeah.
If he's like half-assed, like giving me a slow, weak fist bump, I'm like, okay, I'll keep an eye on that. And
Yeah.
then I asked, how did you sleep? How did you eat? Anything at home going on? Are you good? What's happening? And then that kind of determines how the session is going to go. I will jump them. I will do whatever it takes, but I find that first sort of couple minutes more important, because it'll tell me a lot more about how that session is going to go.
Exactly. One thing is what we expect, and another different thing many times is what happened. That's
100%.
the problem when we have hard plans in different ways of the life. We have ideas, then the ideas could change. I am not talking money that we have to, well, day by day and
Mm,
let's see in the moment. No, 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 no. We must have a program. We must
yeah.
think about the next 4 weeks and have in head the next 8 weeks. But man, we have to solve problems and we have to be to each person in the right moment, in the right place, the right stimulus. That's the key.
100%.
But well, for that, you must have in your rucksack as many tools as you can. If not, you will always do the same answer to different problems.
100%. I think this is what really sets coaches apart. And I was speaking with Ben Hollander, who's another coach in Arizona, and we were talking about the differences between principles, methods, and application. And we've always heard, you've mentioned backpack, I say toolbox, with all your tools and all your principles, all your methods. But I've not figured out exactly how to word this, but you should look at your toolbox having 3 or 4 different levels, right? At the top is like the tools that you use most often, like the principles you use most often, the things that you know works. The second tier should be stuff like your methods, where you gather all this information, and it might not be something that you use often, but you've got some tools in there that if something in the main doesn't quite work, you can go into that drawer, pick out, and do something else with them. The third tier should be your application of things like, okay, this is how I usually program. This is my plan B. This is my plan C. This is my plan E, F, all the way to Z. Because, like, as you know, yes, you can have the same program, 4 week block, 6 week block, whatever week block you want. Each session might look different from week to week. So how am I going to, if my athletes come in and they're not coming in how I expected, maybe I stressed them out too much, maybe the stimulus is really kicking their ass this week. Okay, let me go in and back off a little bit on load or intensities just to make sure that they can get through the session. And it's kind of like having multiple tiers so you can really make the most of each session.
Yeah, yeah, that's the point. Which are your favorite principles, Manny, and why?
Okay, this is a good question. I like so I am a principle based coach. I've studied conjugate, I've studied triphasic, French contrast. I've studied them all, and I know enough about all of them to know which parts I like most. Now, I'm a big fan of triphasic because it stresses out three different movement patterns, and I like to think of strength not just concentrically. I like to have strength within the whole muscle. So say like this is a pair of legs, this is the hamstring, this is the quads, this is calves. I want to make sure that my hamstrings are strong from the insertion to the origin. Meaning, if I can load them concentrically, I also need to load them eccentrically. I also need them to have a foundation of isometric work in there to be able to adapt to movements on the court or on the field. Sports are unpredictable. You're never going to prevent an injury, but you can mitigate them. So, my way of mitigating is making sure that no matter at which point, if it's an overextension or a short limb, like a short lever injury, I've made sure that they're strong enough in all of them to mitigate that. Now, I have really started to get into flexible nonlinear periodization for that thing that you can meet a coach, an athlete where they are, whether they're coming in really fatigued, really happy, energetic, or mid. I can fit to that system. So I don't think there's like a specific way of programming. I like to take things from every different method and apply it to the individual athlete. Like if they've just come into injury from injury, I'll do a little bit of isometric work, making sure that they can hold certain positions. Then I can start doing eccentric, get them stronger, concentric, get them stronger. Then I like to go into ballistic work, where it's going to make the injury point a lot stronger because now they're having to react to this explosive stimulus. How many injuries in sport happen from being over explosive? A lot of them. So it's being able to make sure that you can explode to those end ranges, those injury points, but still have strength enough to not get re injured, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you talk about methods,
Hmm.
and what about principles? Which is your favorite principle of training or performance?
In terms of.
For example, for me, my favorite is individualization principle and
Mhm.
overload,
Okay.
progressive overload. Those are my two favorite principles.
Okay.
The A and B, first and
Okay.
second, then the others.
Okay, that makes sense. So principles to me are so you've got your methods, and the way that I was taught by Coach Ron McKeefery is you should have your methods, but pick out the best principles from each, and that makes your program. That makes sense. So yes, individualizing each program, not necessarily like if I'm in a group setting, I will individualize by changing some of the movement patterns. If it's an individual athlete, then I can sort of tailor each session to what his or her needs are in that session. Now, progressive overload is the fundamental one. Like you have to keep re-stressing the athlete. Adaptation comes from stress. Adaptation comes from recovery. Adaptation comes from sleep. So you can stress them, but you also have to sort of figure out, okay, this is my overload, but I also need you to recover on the back end. So I think over progressive overload and recovery come in really hand in hand because you need both to be able to effectively
Mhm.
adapt your athletes to the stimulus that you want. Now, progressive overload, I think, gets sometimes bastardized by what people think progressive overload, and it's not just adding 5 kilograms on every week. that's progressive overload, but it's not. Like you need to look at, okay, we're doing a squat, but we also need to regress and progress the the difficulty of that movement. So if I start you on the squat first, maybe then we'll go into a belt squat, maybe we go into a hack squat, maybe we go into fireman carries, squats. Like we have to look at progressing the exercise difficulty as well. Then you've got your normals like timing, under tension. Um, it's not just upping the weight because that's the easiest thing to do. It's looking at the whole movement as a whole, adapting it in a way that's progressively difficult, and it creates this confusing effect for the body to then have to adapt to that new stimulus. And just, I mean, there's so many different ways you can progress
Yeah.
a session, but that's my principles. So individualization, progressive overload, and recovery is a big one.
Mm,
Nutrition as well.
yes.
How about you?
As I told you, first for me is individualization for the reason that we have talked about in the last 46 minutes of the podcast, and progressive overload. Because to take and to get those adaptations, we need to increase step by step all the load. We are talking a load about practicing,
Hmm.
uh,
Yep.
travel by bus, by plane, training, everything. But well, we know that load isn't just only the game and practice.
Hmm.
So that's a great challenge for me to understand the load of the different human beings and to try to put
Mm.
and on present them
Yeah.
the amount of load according of the goal that we set.
So this is a really good topic, and I'm really happy that you brought it up. Can you explain what you mean about the load management and the different types of load there is, and how do you effectively track it?
For example, I have one experience of about the jet lag when we had the World Cup China in 2019 with Venezuela. From Venezuela to China, 12 hours of difference. So we knew that around 6 months before the World Cup. So we had to build a plan all together with the coaches, with the director of the federation, to build the different travel concentration and different plan to build that difference between China and Venezuela. So we move to Europe. We stay around 8 days there, 1 hour per day. Then we move to China 6, 7 days before the beginning of the World Cup. So that was a really good challenge and a plan that I didn't do it alone. We build it all together. Another example in this subject is the difference between the time between Europe and Argentina, where we used to, or in America, South America, where we used to play or we used to practice. So most of our players in the national team come from Italy or from Spain. They play in these leagues, but we practice and we play in America with -5 or -4 hours. So we have to manage, we have to make decisions about when we practice, at what time, and in summer when we start the practice here in Europe, most of the players are in holidays in Argentina. So
Hmm.
they come to Spain 5 hours plus or forward. So we have to start the first 3, 4 days of practice at midday
Mm.
because in Argentina they are at 7 or 8 a.m. So we have to manage all that. So that's a good point to learn and to manage that situations.
Yeah. What about like individual loads throughout games where you're having to take that into account? And I'm going to guess that a lot of the decisions that are made playing wise are based on load management.
For example, Manny, we play on Wednesday. The next Wednesday, we will play at the final, yes, of FIBA Europe Cup. Okay, we have 15 players. The day before, the coach decide which player will be the 13, 14, and the 15th. So after that, I have meeting with the technical skills coach, with my assistant coach, to decide when we have the available the court and which will be the plan to work with those players. So the second step is to organize that and communicate to the player. So they work with us around 1 hour, 1 hour 30 in the weight room, no more than 1 hour, 1 hour 15 minutes, sorry. And then they go with the technical skills coach. Or we used to do two groups. One or two players start with the technical skills coach on court, and
Mm.
we start in the weight room with one or two players. After 45 minutes or after 50 minutes, we change, we switch. So in that way, we do compensate the player that they don't play that day. With the players that with the 12 players that they play, for example, the Wednesday night, if those play one of the players or two players sometimes don't play more than 8 or 10 minutes, we stay in the weight room working with them, and the next day off, or they if they, we play again. For example, this week we play on Wednesday and on Saturday. So on Thursday midday we practice too. So that day they practice the 15 players at the same at the same time, the same way. That's the ideal situation.
Mm.
Playing at home, etc., etc. If we are on the road, I have to manage with the team manager about the available court, the weight room, distance between hotels and on the court to go by taxi or go by bus or by Uber or whatever. But the idea is that one, the general idea.
So I think it's a really important thing that you've just mentioned. It doesn't matter that they're on the bench. You still need to stress them and create that difference that the players that have been put on to play, so that they can, in case of an injury happens, they're able to still play at the same level, at the same intensity as those that played on the field.
Exactly. But uh, I, I hate lost time. I
Mm.
hate lost time and opportunities. And I try to explain this idea to my players that each day that they don't practice or they don't play, they are losing time and they are losing opportunities to be better. Perhaps this sound very philosophical sounds or letters and sentence, but if we keep working and keep repeating this idea, the players understand this. So I don't want to punish them with extra work. I am not punish you. I am not a police. I am not your dad. I just only be your strength coach who want to help you to be better.
Mm.
And if you don't play today and you don't practice, tomorrow we can take a flight, you don't practice, you don't play, you lose 2 days. In the next game, 3 days after, you have to play, you are in disadvantage.
Mm. 100%.
That was for me the most important to try to explain them. I am not the bad boy.
Yeah.
I try to not be the bad boy. I try to be a guy who try to help them and the team. The most important.
I really like that point where, and I think it's an important way to describe it to athletes. If you're missing sessions, you're now at disadvantage from those who have been doing it, because they've already got this extra load different to what you've been exposed to. I think that's really important to teach them as well.
I think, Manny, that all of us must be prepared for the challenge ahead. All of us. You doing what you do every day, me doing what I do every day. The players the same. I always tell them, you have to be prepared for when the coach give you the opportunity to play. This world of the sport change a lot day by day
Mhm.
and week by week. Injuries, different opponent situations, different things that happen. So you have to be ready always. And you don't have to prepare when the opportunity arrives. No, no, no,
Mhm.
no, no. You have to prepare before the opportunity
Yep.
arrives. And sometimes, especially when they are young, they don't know or they don't understand this. And sometimes we have to expose them to these situations to teach them.
Mhm.
For example, they don't want to practice, they don't want to lift enough every day when they don't practice. So when they have the opportunity, they are not ready. After that, that's a good moment to have a meeting, hang out with them, to talk and explain the situation. Most of the human beings learn after mistakes.
Mhm. So I like to talk about the dark side a lot. And what that means is you need to let your athletes be exposed to really hard, very essentially stress them to thinking that the exercise that they're currently on is either going to kill them or make them stronger. So it's stuff like if you're on an assault bike doing 10 seconds on, 10 seconds off as fast as you can 12 times, right? You're going to experience real fatigue where you just want to give up, but you can't. And I always tell them, think about a time where you were playing a game and you lost because you just couldn't keep up with the demands. How did that make you feel? Right? So then I say, we're doing this so that when you get to those points again, you know that you've got it inside you to keep going and to win because you've done that work and you've put yourself through this world of suck. It sucks, but you know you can make it through it. Like I love training in the dark side, and Coach AJ actually taught me this, and it's you have to experience it yourself to be able to coach people through it. Because if you don't know when it starts sucking, you may as well tell them, "Go on, you can do it." But I mean, you've never experienced it, so you don't know.
Many, most of the really good athletes, when they live and experience that, they need it frequently
Hmm.
because they don't want to give advantage for the opponent. They don't want to do it because they are winner's mind. So they must experience that or practicing or playing games and because they want to be ready for the worst case scenario.
Hmm.
But worst case scenario, I am not talking about some effort, especially effort on a court in this case.
Hmm.
The worst case scenario is, for example, 2 weeks ago with my team. We must win for at least 20 points. So at the last minute, the experienced players and the winners players show us who they are.
Hmm. Yeah, they showed up and showed out. Yeah, no, that's an important thing to say as well. Is like, I mean, it's the fourth quarter, 5 minutes left in the game, and they won by 29 points. That's like not only did they have more stamina than the team that they were playing against, but they managed to do it at the very last 5 minutes where they're already fatigued from accumulation from the first three quarters, and now they're having to push even harder and further because they still need to win.
Yeah, yeah. Many things, not just only stamina, many things.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
the competitive minds, the opponent, because the opponents they did some things wrong to beat them 28-2 in the last 5 minutes.
Hmm.
But that was a great experience for many points of view.
And I think it's also important to reflect on every game and every training that you do, because then, I mean, I'm from a performance background where every Monday we sit down in a classroom and we run tape and we had to keep account for everything that we did. That taught me accountability for my performance. I know that I had to perform well every game because I didn't want to go in that morning and just like count all my mistakes. Right?
I
I
like
hated that. So for me, it made sure that every time that I was on the pitch, I made sure to give that 110 because I didn't want to count for my. Obviously, there was mistakes. It's impossible to have 100 for 100 game. Impossible. But you can at least minimize how much you're making mistakes.
and I think that a good way to minimize those mistakes is to learn from them. Some years ago, I read that the only way that we can change the past is learning from the mistakes.
Mhm.
That's the only way that we can change the past. So it was a very smart phrase that I take in mind many times.
And I think that's as coaches we need to read a lot. And I'm not saying that's the most important thing to do. I personally think that having these types of conversations is sometimes better than anything that we can read because we learn nuances on how coaches do different the same thing but differently and how that changes the impact it has. Like I always bring it to this point is I can do a squat and you can do a squat with your athletes. I might be doing it for posterior chain purposes, but you might be doing them for a bracing and core control perspective. But the way that we talk about these differences is we should always learn what each does it for and then try and apply it and know why each other does the same lift but differently.
Yes, 100%.
With the sort of schedule of Bilbao, we've kind of spoke about this, but you have this ability to target the younger athletes as well. What are some differences that you make between the younger population to the senior most elite players?
There are many differences. There are many differences. Uh, and I love to work with those differences. I love or every beginning of the week. I sit down in front of my computer. I see all the week. At the same time, I see the games, and on the other hand, I see every 15 players. And
Mm,
the challenge for my week is that one to know what to do with the young players and to do with the senior players. For example, one of the difference we have a technical skills coach. 1 hour before each practice, we practice at 11 a.m. Since 9:30, we start with the individual workout. At
mm,
11, we start with the team work, with the team practice, video, lifting, or on court team practice. Okay. From 9:30 or 10, start the technical skills coach, and I am in the weight room working with some players. So young players are those who do more individual workout, who do more frequent, more sessions of individual technical skills sessions. We do more um, strength session extra. So I must do the difference between them and the seniors. The seniors perhaps come 40 minutes before the practice or 30, and I listen them much more than with the young players. With the young players, I tell them, well, I share a table at the WhatsApp group, and they know what to do in each day, where, blah 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 blah. With the all players, I listen them a lot. Why? Because they know themselves much more than me. They know what they need. They know
mm,
what is good for them and what not. So, for example, I have one, two, three, four players more than 34 years old. 33, sorry. So at the beginning of the season, I talk with them. What is good for you? What it is not for you? Well, this, and this. Okay. I did some assessment for you. I think that you need to improve this. Okay. Let's do build a general work, general plan together. Then they do what I say. But the beginning was working together with the young players. I can hear them at the beginning, just a little bit, and then they do what they say.
Mm.
Because perhaps they don't know exactly what they need. They don't know their bodies. So I heard them, but they do what they say.
Yeah. How important is it for you to sort of teach them fundamental movements so that when they get to that elite level, they're more in tune with their body?
For me, it's very important. Fundamentals in different ways. Fundamentals in habits, man. For me, it's a fundamental that if we practice at 11, you have to be at 10. For
Mm.
me, a fundamental is that you must sleep 9 hours at night. Fundamental is that after practicing, you have to eat. That for me is a fundamental. And if we are talking about the weight room and lifting, performance, blah, 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 you know that. Knee dominant, push, pull, rotations, and hinge movements are fundamentals. Jump, run, land are key movements. Then talk about position, then talk about the load, etc., etc. But for
Yeah.
me, I love to work with young players. I was the strength coach for in two World Cups of under 19 years old with the Argentina national team, and I love to work with them because they are open and
Yep.
they like to improve. And in that ages, they want to to jump higher. They want to be
Competitive.
bulky. They want to be big. Blah blah blah. So that's a big difference. And
Yeah.
I learned a lot from senior athletes,
Yeah, because they know what they like at that point.
and more in the cases that those athletes who played in NBA or in EuroLeague teams and many very high levels, man, heard them.
You spoke that there are different types of training within your teams. You spoke about individuals and team. Can you talk a little bit about the differences between the individual practices and the team practices for you?
For example, we start 1 hour 30 before or 1 hour before team practice. In those 90 minutes, those 60 minutes, in different moments, the players arrive to the facility. Um, in those minutes before team practice, we did different things. Sometimes some young athletes lift every day.
Hmm.
Some other senior athletes lift just only once or twice a week or 3 times a week. In those moments, those young players have technical skills stimulus 2, 3, 4 times a week, and those seniors players don't have technical skills in the whole season. They just only do teamwork and team practice because they don't need that. They just only need the load and the stimulus that the coach in the team practice apply.
Okay.
Some athletes lift after practice. Some athletes prefer to do it before. So that's the point to be open mind.
Yep.
I am 1 hour 30 in the weight room before practice, and I stay until 1 hour after practice in the weight room. I am available for them. I have the idea, I have the workout, I know the load for today, for tomorrow, the yesterday, and when we play. I know everything. I am
Mhm.
open, but I decide.
Yeah. So is that more when you do the accessories and more mitigation work to prepare them for their games?
Sorry?
So is the individual sort of sessions, is that when you stress them a little bit more with the accessory work and the mitigation work to prepare their bodies for their coming games?
Yes, because I know the path before the game. I know the path to the game. I know what the coaches want for them. So I try to manage all those situations.
Mm.
And I repeat, for me, that is the most challenge of my job. Because for me, it will be so bored just only to do the warm up the same to to all of them, to do every day the same for all. No, for me, is to have all of these factors, all
Accounted
of
for.
these points in my head, and to manage. For example, Manny, today we play on Saturday. After we play in Andorra. Andorra is far away from Bilbao. We flew there, but we come back. We came back by bus. 8 hours by bus. We come back and arrive to Bilbao at 5 a.m. on Sunday. Today, Monday, we practice. And we play on Wednesday. I decide today to don't do team lift. I used to do it. On Wednesday, we play a final. I decide to not lift because today was a media day. Journalist,
Hmm.
long video, then the team practice. At this moment of the season, it's a good idea to don't do a team lift. But 4 players lift who played less than 10 minutes on Saturday,
Hmm.
another young player who is 18 years old and need to protect his knees because he had an old injury, blah, 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 blah. So, and I am proud of that decision
Mm.
because they were with the journalist for around 1 hour, and then the video 30 minutes, and then the team practice. Imagine that they add that 30 minutes with me or 40 minutes with me. Balance,
Yep.
cost, benefits, risk. All my decisions through these 3 points: cost, benefits, and risk.
Yeah. That's a that's a really good way to look at it as well. I mean, it also comes back to that thing where they're kind of bought into your system, where they know that although it's been a long day and a long journey, they still need to go in and see you to protect them for the potential coming weeks.
But that's a question. Sorry, money.
So it wasn't. It was just saying that it's a good way to see that your athletes care about what you're teaching them, because even though they've had a long journey and a long media day, they know that they still need to go in and protect themselves for their coming games.
Yes, I repeat, they are human beings. They don't know about lifting stimulus, video stimulus, team practice stimulus, journalist stimulus, pressure of the final in 2 days. They are human beings. They just only receive stimulus.
Yep.
So that is a point that we have to understand. After practice, after all that I said, I stay in the weight room, and some of them ask me, "Hey, Christian, can we go to the lift?" Yes, man, let's go together. They do what they did and go home. And
Yeah.
perhaps, Manny, 4, 5, 10 years ago, I would decide another thing. I would decide, hey man, no, 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 it's impossible. 2 days before, 2 days after, we must lift because it's what it is.
I mean, I think that's the whole thing of learning from our mistakes and previous events. Because I mean, this was 2 weeks ago. I was going through one of my old computers and I found some of my old programs, and I try and not look at them anymore. But I was like, I have to see what I did. And I looked at that program, I was like, holy shit. Like this is not good. Like what was I thinking? But looking at it, I also saw what I was trying to do. And the way I thought about it was, okay, it's a terrible program, but I was still trying to do a balance workout. I was still trying to get pushes and pulls. I was still trying to get hinges, some fast movements in there, some controlled movements in there. So, like, although it was like, I think, if I can remember correctly, I had front squat and then I had like different lunge variations. I think it was two different lunge variations and then some other stuff, some upper body
Yeah.
stuff. And I was like, yes, it could have been better, but I was still subconsciously trying to get this balanced program to my athlete. And it's, I mean, I always, although I hate looking at them, it's still important to do because you sort of analyze what you were trying to do and what you can do better.
And many other times, you take your hands to your head and ask yourself, what did I do? Or when you meet some old athlete that you trained him 15 years ago or 10 years ago,
You say,
hey,
I'm
you
sorry.
remember when we ran 6 kilometers and we did blah blah. Wow, nice story.
How important is it for you to work out and experiment with yourself and then trickle your findings into your programs?
I like it to do it so much. I like to read. I like to experience practicing, lifting, running, jumping, and then, for example, be fear. I experienced that before my athlete. For
Mm,
example, cluster sets. I
mm-hmm,
experienced that before. uh, Olympic lifting around 10, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, sorry. I experienced that before and I learned before by doing it, not just
mm-hmm.
only reading. And I liked it. I like it to do it before.
Was the current what are you currently experimenting with that you're seeing good results with?
ISOs,
ISOs.
yes. ISOs is the subject of the moment, I think. In my context, many games, it gives me, or they give me, many solutions and just little problems.
Mm,
So I prefer them. I choose them because I repeat, they give me solutions
yeah,
with
I like
low
it.
risk. Low risk.
Nice. Was a piece of advice that you would give new strength coaches wanting to join this industry or currently in their beginning of this industry?
At first, listen.
Mm,
First, listen and listen the a large amount of varieties, and no, don't listen just only one voice.
mm-hmm.
Listen many and different voices. Experience different things and actions, and be open mind and stay humble to say I'm wrong. I did that mistake and learn.
Yeah.
So what about you? What suggestion or you could
Uh,
say?
I always like to tell young coaches to speak to as many different coaches as they possibly can. I mean, we're pretty much all on Instagram. We're probably all on Twitter. Our emails are also very accessible. You search our names up, our emails will probably come up. So it's and again, I always have to disclaim this, and it's you probably won't get reply from all coaches. The majority will answer you back and want to talk to you. So it's spending time speaking to them. Sorry. My second advice is try and spend time with them and just don't expect to be paid because this industry sometimes doesn't pay a lot. So be comfortable working and experiencing their weight room, their situation for free and just shadow them. Just shadow them, have a pen and paper. Any question that you have, write it down. Write it down at the end of the session, ask them those questions. So for me it's much more of talking to the practical and then trying to shadow coaches that you like and respect. Now, me personally, I always like to talk and interact with coaches that I might not agree with, but at least I can understand why they've came up to that conclusion based on everything that they've spoke about.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Not just only heard and see people who talk in the same language.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Yes,
Yeah, so
the variety
the same
and
thought
yeah,
process of programming. Yeah, you need to experience all sides.
and don't be a fan of some. Don't stay in a close position.
Hmm.
I'm a fan of Olympic lift. I'm a fan of fun people can't uh, can't separate and difference things because they think with their heart, not with their brain.
Hmm.
So
Egos.
I am not a fan of nothing. I just only see, heard everyone. Then I decide.
Hmm.
But at
100%.
first, listen. At first, listen. Is the first step.
It's the principle of becoming a sponge. Like you, when you're in there or when you're speaking to coaches, listen and absorb everything, everything.
From everyone, eh?
Yep.
Not
Yes.
just
Yes.
only from the best of strength. No, 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 no. We can learn from a player. We can learn from the president or
Hmm.
the owner of the team. We can learn from the nutritionist.
Yep.
We can learn from the father of a player.
Hmm.
We can learn from everyone.
So I always bring. I don't have the book with me here, but I don't just like to read textbooks and research papers. I like to read books and speak with people from different industries as well, because you can always take away something from them. I mean, I've mentioned this before, but on my desk I always have a rubber duck, always. In every
Why?
desk that I have, I always have one. A while ago, I was learning to code, just making websites and Python and all that stuff. And in computer science, there's the rubber duck theory. And with code, like even if you've got like a small exclamation point or a little bracket in the wrong place, it will completely change your code. So the theory is if you go through all your code and talk to the rubber duck, it can trigger this thing where you're quicker to learn where the mistake is by speaking it out loud, by telling the duck what you've done, and then you're able to identify where the problem is and fix it. So I always keep that because in if it's I'm programming and I have a tricky athlete with an injury that I don't quite know how to do it, or even like just speaking about my program, why I'm putting things in there, why I'm making the choice not to put things in there. I talk to the rubber duck just to be like, okay, this is my rationale for this program. And I mean, for me, it's always helped because like I've always been able to sort through my problems that way. And it's like if I can verbalize it, it means I've got a good understanding of it. So it makes it a little bit easier for me to send that program out.
100%.
Yeah. So rubber ducks.
Yeah, yeah, I will buy one. I will buy one. Yeah, yeah, to have here in my desk.
Yeah.
A good idea.
It's just, and again, it's different things that you learn from different industries. Like my brother-in-law, he's an electric engineer, and his work always looks very fucking complicated. But I can ask him like, what does this mean, and how does it relate to potential like movement or um physics, or like what's the understanding behind it. And then like I start looking at movement and reactions differently from that interaction. It's I mean it's I don't know if it's the same in Argentina or in Spain, but in Portugal we have this saying where it's you can learn something from everyone, even a dumb person. You can learn not to be them.
Yeah, we have that similar phrase, but I know the meaning, and I like that because listening dumps or listening different perspective as your, for example, brother-in-law, an electrician engineer, you take perspective about yourself, about your job.
Hmm.
If not, you are in a bubble. So if you read just only strength and conditioning books, if you read just only nutrition, if you read just only all about your subject, you stay inside the bubble. That's the
Hmm.
same is that when you travel and when you meet people from different parts of the world and when you have different meetings and talks with different people, yes, you move outside the bubble
Yep.
and you have perspective about where you are, who you are.
I agree. It's, I mean, we're both in different countries from our origins, and like even some of the nuance differences in culture, you kind of have to adapt to and think to yourself, this isn't my country. This is how they do things. So I'm not going to force people in their own country to do things my way because it's not my country. So how can I learn to sort of maneuver myself within this new dynamic? Like when I was in Spain, I always like to try the cultures thing, and I think that one of the thing that Irina exposed me to was the wine and Coca Cola, and I was like, it's a weird mix, but I'm here, I might as well try it. So I ended up liking it. Um, but it's always being able to have influence from different cultures and be and experiencing how they do things. I always think that's a big importance is learn from everyone that you come across.
Yes. It doesn't mean if it's a dumb or
Mm,
a genius and scientist or whoever.
100%. I really appreciate you for coming on. If you let everyone know where they can get in contact with you and follow along your journey as well.
Well, yes, I let you know. Thank you so much.
So I will pull up your Instagram if people want to contact you and ask a little bit more questions that we might have not covered. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Manny. Thank you to contact me. Thank you to make this moment so nice. Yes, it was around 2 hours talking about
Yeah,
this our passion and to well to develop some ideas. And you know that when we talk about our ideas, they we order them and
hmm
we think about them. So it's a pleasure to be with you, and thank you. I appreciate a lot the invitation.
no, it's all good. I mean, the conversations that we were having in Bilbao, although most of them weren't actually S&C, but just the whole experience was made really nice by you, Erin, and your girlfriend. So I really appreciated that as well.
Well, it was a pleasure to share those moments here in my city. The next time in Ireland or in Portugal
Yeah, perfect.
or whatever.
Perfect. Peace.